Jock Haslett, John Haslett, known as Jock. My father was called Jock, so that's probably where that came from primary school days up in Lancefield. Lived all my early years there and played my first football at Lancefield. Went to secondary school at Kyneton High School. Did what was called the leaving certificate back in those days, Form 5. And then 1964, I came down to Essendon, and also that same year, I got my first job in what was in the ES&A Bank, now ANZ, and played football in the reserves in 64 and 65. Played 30 odd games, I can't remember exactly how many, missed a few for injuries. And yeah, that's about it. And then at the end of 65, I was delisted and I went to play football up at Redan in the Ballarat League until the Army came knocking mid-1967. Got the call up, and 2 years national service. Luck of the draw, I guess, but that was all okay. And ended up joining after basic training and infantry training. Ended up with the 4th Battalion, Infantry Battalion, which was bound for Vietnam in early June 1968. And over there for 12 months. And fortunately got home in one piece, which is good. Our exact title was called a rifleman. After the basic training, ended up with 4th Battalion up at Enoggera in Queensland, in Brisbane, for about 3 months, or 4 months I think it was, before we set sail for Vietnam. I went over on the troop ship, the HMAS Sydney. The whole battalion basically went over that way. And we came back on the same ship 12 months later. That was a bit of an adventure in itself. You know, the accommodation wasn't all that great. Each day you had to get a hammock, string a hammock between the downstairs, you know, so it was always jostling for positions, best positions for the hammock, but stifling hot and humid, and no air conditioning. So it was called I think it was known as the Vung Tau Ferry at the time. So that was its job, to ferry troops up and back from Vietnam. And we landed at Vung Tau, in the port of Vung Tau, and they got landing craft that actually took us from the ship onto land, and then onto trucks and out to Nui Dat, which was the Australian base. I think it was about 20 miles or so from Vung Tau, roughly. And that was a bit of an education, because the moment you got onto land and you see all these Vietnamese people running around with coolie hats on and all dressed in black, and that's what we've been shown in the video, what the enemy looked like. So we weren't prepared for that, I don't think, very well. So took a little while to get used to that. I suppose you were acclimatised to it after a while, up to a point, but it'd be steaming hot. And then in the middle of the afternoon, out of the blue, you'd get a monsoon shower come down and just bucket down. And of course, once that finished, steam and humidity, it was pretty trying. And I think the best word to probably describe it is that you were scared most of the time. And it was just uncertainty. You weren't sure what was going to happen at any given time, you know. That was one of the big factors of it, was just the uncertainty, I guess. Yeah, so our unit was involved in a few nasty skirmishes. We lost a few blokes over there, you know, didn't come back, and quite a few injured as well. There's what they used to call it R&C leave, which was only a few days at a time. We went down there on a couple of occasions, yeah, and Vung Tau, and the club there, the accommodation where we stayed, and they had a bar there, I think from memory. It was called the Peter Badco Club. And Peter Badco was a VC winner, I think, over there in the early days of Vietnam. Yeah, and they had the club there named after him. which was, yeah, it was a nice little break. Had a few drinks and one thing and another, as you do. And but as well as that, we had what they call R&R leave, and I was fortunate enough to go with a mate of mine over to Hong Kong. I think that was 4 days, 5 days maybe. Mid-tour, that was in about November, I think. So that was a nice little jaunt for a few days. We got called up and knew practically no one the first day, but it didn't take long to get to know guys. And a few of us went right through our 2-year army together, you know, from Puckapunyal basic training to Singleton infantry training, and then on to Enoggera and over to Vietnam and so forth. And I still keep in touch with the group. Oh, there's a group of about a dozen of us. Still keep in fairly regular contact. We have a lunch at RSL a couple of times a year, wives and girlfriends as well. So yeah, managed to stay in touch with quite a few of them. Good friends. Well, I was a couple of years ahead of Ian. Ian, I think, came after me. So I think the opposition and the feeling about Australia's involvement in Vietnam was getting more and more publicised, and that the later on it went, you know. Whereas I came home in '69, so yeah, our experience, or my experience, was quite a positive one as far as that goes. Very different to what Ian relates. I think the main difference arose because we came back on the ship as a unit, as a full battalion unit, if you like, and got into Brisbane, and they'd arranged like a street march, a welcome home parade, if you like, through the streets of Brisbane for us. So our experience was quite positive, really, as far as that goes. And and then when I got back to Melbourne, my father-in-law, he wasn't my father-in-law at the time, but later on, he was in a member of the RSL up at Lancefield, and through him I sort of went along and joined the RSL, and I found no adverse reaction at all as far as that goes. So a very different story to one that Ian was relayed to us, and I've heard it, you know, quite commonly, you know, about people not feeling very welcome and all, and getting spat on, the rest of that. I experienced none of that. I met my wife. She wasn't my wife before we went to Vietnam, but we got married. I got back in '69. We were married in 1970. So we've had, what's this, coming up 55 years. We had 2 kids. Darren is aged 54, and my daughter Nicole is aged 53, and they both have three children, so we've got a total of 6 grandkids. But the grandkids, yeah, they're terrific. We've got a wonderful lot of grandkids. The oldest one, I think, she's Charlotte. She's 24. She's studying law and at uni, and she's got various part-time jobs. She lives up at Gisborne, where I live now. She lives at Riddles Creek, just out of Gisborne, and she's a swimming instructor, and she's also got a part-time job. I think it's 2 days a week at a law firm up in Kyneton, which is really potentially going to set her up when she gets further qualified, you know, with her law. So she's doing well, and the next grandson is Declan. The granddaughter was Charlotte. I didn't mention her name, I don't think. Declan is 22, and he's studying to be a chiropractor. Yeah, uni. But he's got various part-time jobs as well in with all his uni work. So they've done very well, and they save their money, which is good. They're great savers. And the youngest one there, young Isaac, he's doing year 12 at Sacred Heart in Kyneton this year. So, as well as that, those 3 kids have all had part-time jobs during the summertime doing life-saving at the swimming pools, various swimming pools up there. So they've really landed on their feet as far as part-time work goes and saving money they're very, very switched on, which is good. And my son's 3. The eldest one is Sam, who is coming up 16. No, he is 16, sorry. And he's a very good basketballer. And he's in the Victorian, very high up in the Victorian basketball scene. And as a matter of fact, this week he's going over to Japan, over to Tokyo, for a tournament over there. So he's doing well. He's still going to school, obviously. And then the 2 youngest ones are Angus and Emma. They're twins, and they're 14. They're still going to school, obviously, so they're still finding their way. But they're all really good kids, and they're making their way beautifully. I enjoy ferrying them around to their various sporting events because their parents all work. They're shift workers too. My son's an air traffic controller, and my son-in-law is also an air traffic controller, so they work crazy shifts. And from time to time, the kids have to be here or be there. They'll give me a buzz, and I'm only too happy to ferry them around. And also, 4 of the 6 grandkids have all had the learning driver's experience, of course. So I stepped in a bit there and take them for a drive. Yeah, love it. Yeah. So I'd just like to be. They all call me Jock, so not Grandpa or anything like that. So they all refer to me as Jock, which I reckon's great. Yeah. Yeah, well, when I was here at Essendon, and my first job was in the ESNA Bank, and when I came back from Vietnam, I went back to the bank for a few years, and then I got a bit restless, and the wife and I bought a milk bar, news agency milk bar out the other side of town, and had that for a couple of years, and then moved to another one. We actually bought the local milk bar at Lanesfield, news agency up there. Had that for about 4 years, and then I had a few other bits and pieces of jobs, but I ended up working at Qantas in the air freight department out there, and that was my last job. I was there for 20 years, which was a good gig. Yeah, well, at the time when I was here, we had some outstanding coaches. John Coleman was the senior coach, and our reserves coach was Billy Hutchison, Brownlow medalist, and he was coach for 64, and in 65 it was Greg Sewell was the coach, and he eventually was a president of the club at one stage as well. So. But the club, the Essendon Footy Club overall back at that era was very, very strong. We were blessed with a really strong playing list, you know, and I wasn't good enough to break in, unfortunately. So,
but still would have been great to be in the reserves and be a part of everything that was happening.
Yeah, that's right. Well, we were. We used to train, the reserves and the seniors used to train here, all in one group, here at Windy Hill. So really, we were under the coach of Coleman, and then Hutchie on the on game days more so. Yeah.
That's great.
But the club was littered with great players back in those days. There were some big names there. Well, I think as Ian alluded to earlier on, the Essendon Past Players Association, I think, is renowned through the AFL clubs as being one of the best, if not the best, club, and they've had a lot of excellent players have driven that down through the years. Barry Capuano was one of the main drivers of the Past Players Association, and yeah, there's a lot of feeling about the place. It's entirely different to what it was back in our day, of course. It's all modernised a bit, and we were out on the ground surface there before, and the grass is just beautiful. You know, it was just pretty rough back in our day by comparison, but. Yeah, it's great to be back. You know, the Past Players Association have a dinner every year on Grand Final week in the room just down below. Usually get around 150 people, I think, come along. That's always a big event, which is well attended by people from other clubs as well, representatives from other AFL clubs as well. Yeah, always a good event. there's been a lot of effort going into all the redevelopment, and as I say, it's nothing like what it was back in our day. But it is 60 years ago, so progress, I suppose it's called. Memories as far as the playing was concerned, we were fortunate enough. I think it was in '64 or '65. One of the years the reserves played in a first semi-final at the MCG, and that was a bit of a buzz too. Back in those days, the reserves was always played before the senior game on the same day. So we used to, and I think the under-19s was before that. So there was always 3 games on the one day, which is a pretty big day. But you know, by the time we were playing, once it got into the second half, the crowd was just starting to build, and I can remember it was quite a buzz to play in front of a bigger crowd than normal. But even here at Windy Hill, we always played before the seniors as well, and you'd get quite a good crowd here towards the second half of our game. It was good. That usually had we'd have a special area where we could sit and watch the main game, yeah, as a group basically, yeah. It's being able to be part of the kids growing up, the grandkids growing up basically. Our kids have done very well. My son and my daughter have done extremely well, and they're quite successful, I think you'd have to say. And yeah, I just enjoy being part of the grandkids scene basically. And Gwenda and myself, we live a quiet little life up in Gisborne at the moment. Got a big house at the moment, which takes a bit of looking after. Downsizing has been mentioned, but nothing further to report there yet. So yeah, we're very content there. And I'd subscribe to the 2 beers a day theory. I enjoy a drink still. Yeah, a couple of days, good.